This tutorial addresses using Microsoft Excel 2007 to create frequency distributions and histograms using the pivot table and pivot chart functions. This worksheet I'm using just includes 20 observations of cities in the United States and then the average room rate per night. Now this is not accurate data, this is data that I just created in order to complete this exercise. So I have 20 averages, and I'm going to group those averages together so that we have bins or buckets to work with and a little bit cleaner frequency distribution than having an individual entry for each of the observations. So if I go up here to Insert, we have the pivot table options. There's two under that. We could just create a pivot table, or we can create both the table, which is the frequency distribution, and the histogram, which is the chart, at the same time. So go over to Pivot Chart. It asks where the data is. Now I don't actually need to use all of this data. It doesn't matter what city these are, so I'm just going to select the column, including the title of that column of that information. And we'll put the data. It defaults to put it out in C2. I'm actually going to have it put the table out in E3, but you can leave it go with the default if you'd like. And now it starts through the process. It has recognized that there's only one piece of information, so over in my pivot table field list, I can select that. It automatically puts it down here in the values. I actually want it both places, so I'm going to drag it down here and put it in the axis fields, or it's also the categories area. And if you look over here, what it's done is it's taken it's identified each unique room rate and put it as a row, and then it summed those over here, but I don't really want to sum, I want to count. So if I go over here on the right in values, and I click on this drop down arrow, I can choose value field settings and change that. There's lots of options: sum, average, min, max. I actually just want to count. So I want to know how many rooms are in each price category. There we go. It changed it to ones, not surprisingly. It's not exactly what we want, but at least has the correct data. So I can close that. I can close this. Now if I go over to my pivot table here and I point anywhere inside and right click, I get a special menu, and I can choose Group. Now Group will take all these individual observations and start to lump them together. It shows that my lowest was 120, my highest was 245, and it asks how I want to group them. Do I want to group them $10 at a time? Let's set it for $20 at a time, just for argument's sake. And choose OK, and now it sets up those bins or groupings automatically, and it shows me that there are 6 cities with an average rate between 120 and 139, 3 between 140 and 159, and so forth down the line. And then here is the subsequent histogram that goes with that data. Now certainly the legend over here is of no value, so I'll just highlight that and hit delete. I'll update my title, and let's say this is city average room rates. Be a good title. Let's add an axis title in over here. If we go up to layout, axis titles, that's the vertical axis, and choose rotated. I'm going to put in frequency. So I have a nice title over there, and let's put a horizontal axis title in as well. Horizontal axis, below axis, and I'm going to title that room rates. And we have a pretty good chart left over. It shows us that predominantly 8 of the cities have room rates in the 160 to 179 range, and then less up in only one city in each of the higher rates. So that gives us at least something to work with, and that would be up here a frequency distribution, which is just a pivot table, and then a histogram, which is simply a column chart based on that data.